Welcome to the Beyond Pain podcast with your host, Joe Gambino and Joe LaVacca. Join the two Joes, two physical therapists, as they discuss how to navigate the uncertainties of pain so you can move beyond it and get back to the activities you love most. This podcast is for Joe, and their guests to share their clinical thoughts and ideas based on their collective clinical experiences. Can this information be for you? Maybe, but we cannot know for sure. Therefore, it is always worth talking to your healthcare provider to make the best decisions in your care before you implement anything on this podcast. And please use common sense.
Welcome back to the Beyond Pain podcast. I am one of your hosts, Joe Gambino, and I am here with our other lovely host, Joe LaVacca. You can find us both on Instagram at Joe Gambino DPT for myself, at Strength in Motion _PT for LaVacca over there. Podcast is also on Instagram at Beyond Pain Podcast and on YouTube, Cups of Joe _PT. And if you do us the honors of dropping us a review, it really go a long way to helping this show. Welcome back, Joe. I know it's not been the greatest month for you, but we will bring some positivity into your life because yesterday the Giants did something I did not think could ever happen.
I did not either. What an up and down week because we lost the Yankees.
I didn't want to bring it up on the podcast.
I know. They bat out hard. And then the team that you never thought would pick you up doesn't. Like I was just checking the score of that game last night. And then lo and behold, we're winning. And then we stayed winning. And then it wasn't a fluke. And we actually won by, I think, 20 points, almost 17 points, right? Because it was 34-17.
34-17, I think, yeah.
I mean, welcome back to football. Like, this is fantastic. And now, I know we beat your boys. One of the better teams in the AFC.
You guys get smoked by the Saints.
Well, the Saints thing was weird.
The Chargers are reeling, so our offensive line is a nightmare right now. So we're just a reeling club.
They were able to move the ball, which was nice. But the 5 fumbles in a row or 5 whatever turnovers in a row. I mean,
apparently I just need to give the ball to Scatterboo and let him score 3 touchdowns.
That's it, like 60-yard games with 4 touchdowns. I mean, that's like back to like Brandon Jacobs, like rumbling, bumbling, stumbling. The old Brandon Jacobs. I don't know if you remember him being the running back. But yeah, you guys have had a couple of tough injuries yourself, though, with your running backs down, your O-line's down.
Yeah, it's we'll see. We'll see if we can right the ship. We'll see if we can right the ship. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
we'll see. This
heavy
weekend
lifting
against Miami will be very telling for our season. So
yeah, right.
We're still. I mean, it's a must win. I mean, we're still at the top of that division. Kansas City lost. Denver had the upset to Philly last week, so they're pushing us for the top of the division now. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
but we're not out.
Heavy lifting for you guys, and I think that's some of the theme of what we'll talk about today. And I don't know if it happened to you, but it did happen to me. I had 2 clients, I believe it was, reach out after listening to another one of Peter Attia's podcast episodes. And a couple of weeks ago, he had a roundtable discussion of some health and fitness influencers. And one of the people on the show was Mike Boyle, who I have nothing but respect for. I actually went through the whole Mike Boyle strength and conditioning certification. I thought it was extremely valuable for me, the way that it was laid out. And I know every system has their biases. I have my biases. You have your biases. It's sort of what makes different systems even exist. But the concern from my clients was, after hearing some of the banter back and forth, that maybe they shouldn't lift heavy anymore. And I immediately shut that down and said, if you can lift heavy and
get under the squat bar, 315, no warm up,
you are fine. So I was wondering what your initial thoughts were when you saw this floating around, and if you had any clients share concerns with you about heavy lifting, particularly under a barbell.
I have not had anyone bring it up to me, nor have I actually listened to the podcast. I have seen clips circling through social media, and obviously how that goes when you only get a certain cherry-picked clip of something, right? You don't get the full context of the situation. I think Mike Stella did a post that put a little bit more clarity behind somebody else's post, which also help me, I guess, shed a little more light on the situation. But again, a podcast episode I have not listened to. But in general, I think that when we're talking about heavy lifting, it's something that someone should not shy away from. I think there are a lot of different tools. Maybe it is barbell lifting. I think it really depends on the person. I think it depends on what the irritants are. And I think, if you're trying to fit yourself into a peg of I want to deadlift, I want to squat, and those things are constantly irritating and preventing you from making progress in any way, shape, or form, then sure, maybe we need to make some modifications, take away the barbell. There's a lot of other variations that we can do that will allow you to get a strength stimulus and progress and see things that carry over to your life. But I actually just saw, I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. Alec Belanis, I think is his last name.
Oh, yeah, sure.
He had a very interesting post I saw just before we hopped on here that was saying like all these fitness influencers these days are talking about tempo work. They're talking about, not lifting heavy. They're talking about doing zone 2 cardio, and they're putting it into these buckets for general population people. And a lot of these things, they're kind of like put in a bucket for more specific populations. And what it's doing is causing the general people who just want to get stronger, be more resilient, live a healthier life, play with their kids more, go for a round of golf. And it's watering down their programs. And they're not really getting a real training stimulus because they're being told constantly that barbell training is bad for you. Running and doing high intensity work is bad for you. You should only be doing zone 2 work. So I think we need to find this balance of how do we challenge somebody to create an actual strength stimulus or a energy system stimulus so that they can be healthier, have more longevity, not have pain, do all those things. But at the end of the day, these things are the things that should carry over to your life, right? Training in the gym is not the goal. I mean, some people it's their outlet, is the thing that they want to do more of. But it really isn't the end goal for people, right? They want to be able to go for a hike or go for a run or chase their kid or whatever that looks like, right? Or go run a 5K if they've never done it before. So I think that we need to kind of maybe not reframe what fitness looks like, but I think the fitness industry tends to take ideas and overdo it. And especially now with social media where information is just so easily put out there and to come by for people that it can make it very confusing for somebody as they're trying to process that information.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm glad that you said this one phrase, training stimulus. And I don't really care how much you lift. I just don't want people to go in with the notion that they have to stop at a certain point because then it gets too dangerous. And if you're able to lift 100 pounds, wonderful, keep doing it. If you're able to lift 200 pounds, wonderful, keep doing it. If you want to lift 200 and you're only at 100, keep working towards it, because all that means is you're going to go to the gym consistently, putting in a stimulus, as you mentioned, to your body, giving your body time to adapt, and then your body should get stronger. The going lighter just doesn't really make sense to me. And that was a couple of points that clients, I think, were confused about was, hey, maybe I should stop this barbell work and go lighter. And I don't think that that's necessarily what Mike was getting at. It's not to go lighter, and that light weights are safer, because as we said, it's not going to stimulate any change in your body. So we do need to find the right stimulus for you. If you don't want to lift with a barbell, that's okay. You don't have to. And actually, barbells are not that accessible to a lot of people anyway. I know in my apartment gym in the new place over here, tons of dumbbells, tons of kettlebells, no barbells. And that's pretty typical of a lot of places in the city, where you're going to see a lot more machines, you're going to see a lot more hand weights, you're going to see a lot more bands, a lot more kettlebells, and that's totally cool. But keep lifting the heavier dumbbell, keep lifting a heavier kettlebell, and keep working your numbers to get to them to be as high as possible. And when you look at the injury rates of weightlifting and CrossFit, it's not any more dangerous than playing sports or running around with your friends or your kids in the park, right? There's always some level of risk, but lifting weights, doing it consistently, is probably one of, if not the safest mode of exercise that we can give to clients. And that's what I always remind them of too. If there wasn't any way, shape, or form that you were going to hurt yourself or harm yourself, I probably wouldn't be giving this to you to do on your own. Right. And every single person I talk to or work with, I tell them strength training is for you. It is the safest thing you can do. I will show you how to do it and build you from there. But I just hate, and Alec is so good at kind of pointing out these things. Do what makes you happy. See how your body responds rather than just listening to one clip or one podcast. And the zone 2 is a perfect idea. I mean, sure, zone 2 is great if you got 45, 60 plus minutes to exercise, but a lot of our clients don't. So I'll give them interval work that they can get done in 20 or 30 minutes. And hey, that 20 or 30 minutes of zone 3 or zone 4 is just as beneficial, what we're finding out from research, as your 60, 75-minute zone 2. So it's just, how do you respond? Can you recover from a zone 3, zone 4 after you strength train? Or do you need a longer, slower bout of something? Because that just what makes your body feel.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think you mentioned a few things here that are powerful. I don't know. That's why the word that popped into my mind. Yeah,
All
so
right.
I'll give it
Love
to you,
that.
Joe. But I think for sure, you talked about creating change, right? Like you need strength work. I think whenever we're trying to do exercise, I mean, obviously, you can just do movement to move, and that should have general qualities for your health, right? Like help improve cardiovascular fitness and, help you live a little bit of a longer life and things like that, and healthier life. But exercise, right? It should be to a degree hard. And when you do things that are hard, that's the only way to make changes to your body, right? So, if your RPEs, we talk about a lot on this podcast, right? Like 7s, 8s, 9s, they probably need to pop up in your as a training stimulus for you. Otherwise, you're not actually going to get stronger. If you're doing runs and it's always zone 2 and it's a conversation pace short, it's going to help, right? The same way walking helps improve your cardiovascular function. But if you want to actually create a stimulus that's going to actually make significant changes for you or help you run faster or whatever your goals might be, right? You need to do something at a higher intensity and really challenge yourself. And that kind of goes back to our conversation last week or 2 weeks ago, because I think we missed a week. Yeah. Is when you have pain and you start to kind of back off a little bit, you can decondition yourself, right? And that's kind of what this is doing, right? If you're always saying is like easy workouts, it's never really challenging you, you're not going to have a positive change, right? And if it's always too easy, right, and you're kind of avoiding things, or you have fear of, I don't want a barbell lift, I don't want to train heavy, right, you can even move yourself in the wrong direction. And the last point here is that there is enough research now that tells us we're both right approaching 40, right, and the research shows that after this third decade of life, that power and strength continue to have a decrease as we get older, right? So in order for us to maintain this or slow this down, you kind of need to push your body, right? You need to do strength training, you need to do power stuff, you need to move fast, right? It can't always be slow movements and careful movements. And if you also think about like people have pain, it's like, oh, if I move this way, I feel good. But then when I have to do it and it's unexpected, like, oh, my pain is there, right? Like we also need to train you to move fast and move unpredictable, right? Because if we're always controlled environment, slow, safe, when you need to do something like Olivia decided to go run towards a street and I need to go catch her, like, I don't want my back to like feel like it's going to explode or not feel confident to be able to do that stuff, right? So I think all of these things need to be addressed for somebody to make sure that they are confident in their body, they are making changes that they want, and that they just in general feel good.
Yeah, for sure. And when like how hard it is to lift heavy, everything sort of like builds off of that. Like you mentioned, you're not going to take your 1 rep max and try to move it as fast as possible. That's a different thing. So for us, as we get older and our clients get older, yes, power is important, but you also then need to understand percentages of what you're moving so you get that stimulus again. So if I can lift 100 pounds and that's my true rep max, then I need to be probably around 80 or 90 pounds for bone development. right? And bone stimulation, I have to get to within that 80% or maybe a little higher 1 rep max. So my bones actually pay attention. My muscles will, my tendons will to some degree, but bone is a very specific stimulus. And the thing I don't want people to fall into the trap of is thinking that heavier weights are somehow unsafe and lighter weights are safer. You just do different things with lighter weights. So you can move them fast. So you can take that 50 pounds and then move it as fast as possible. And now you're working on power. And like you said, the ability to do things like get up from a chair, run after your kid, catch something as it falls out of a cabinet or a high shelf, right? These are the things that we can really prep our bodies for by using the gym to its advantage. But again, if we all think that lifting heavy is not safe or I shouldn't do it or that going lighter is somehow safer, well then we better make sure that we're stimulating bones some other way. We better make sure that we're, loading joints some other way, because if we don't do it in the gym, then when else are we going to do it? Or when else are people going to do it? Because, life's and it's really hard to start cutting out all of these slots and times and variables so I can breathe and journal and jump and run and zone 2 and lift and not lift and stretch and mobilize. I mean, it gets to just be too much. And that's where I think my bias has always been towards just lifting weights, because it seems like it has the biggest carryover effect, um, you know, along with aerobic conditioning. So I hope that that's sort of the message that we can keep pushing out there, is that you do need to lift heavy. You don't have to lift heavy all the time, but understanding what you can do is really powerful for those training stimuluses that you were mentioning before. And it gives you a much better likelihood of succeeding or adapting every time you go to the gym when you can understand.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think from a longevity standpoint, that it makes a whole lot of sense. And I get the concept. It makes sense that lighter can be safer, but I also feel like lighter being safer is also like a cop out.
Yep.
It's like just giving people an excuse to do less because it's quote unquote, when there's nothing inherently dangerous about going heavy. And I think it also helps people feel more independent. Always, I've had a few people in the past when I was doing more like strict personal training. One story that stands out specifically to me is I was working with somebody and I never really put it together before I moved to North Carolina. I'm in a house with central air and stuff like that. In New York, you have to put your own ACs into windows and potentially, not everyone does it, but take them out during the winter so your apartment's not freezing cold. But I was working with a woman and getting through the whole process. She comes in one day. She's like, "Joe, I feel like such a badass. I was able to just pick up this AC unit all by myself, put it
Yeah.
in my window, and like this was awesome. It's like a huge win for them, right?" So I think like, we do have to pick up stuff heavy, right? We can't always live in this like light is safe world. So I think going heavier is useful. And I think that heavier gets a bad rep because most people will feel pain when they start going heavier. And that's really just a volume issue to me, right? If you're like, maybe you're in pain already, maybe you're not in pain, and like you have pain for the first time while deadlifting. I don't know why I always pick deadlifting as the example, but we'll keep riding it. If you have pain at a certain lift I deadlifted for me, right? It was 275 when I started having my back issues, was always the number that I couldn't get past. It always caused a flare up. It wasn't that deadlifting heavy was bad for me. It was I haven't prepped myself well enough to surpass 275. I was fine at 225. I was fine at 245. Maybe I don't even need to ever deadlift 275 again, because the 225 deadlift is probably going to be good enough for the majority of people in the world, unless you have higher level goals. But, and then I changed kind of the way I was training a little bit, and, I've hit 300 since then. And, I've moved past 275. I haven't had any real back pain issues, right? So it really wasn't the weight, from experience now, me being able to do more than that and load past 275 and not have flare-ups tells me it wasn't the weight, it wasn't the exercise, right? It was the way I approached my training, the way I approached my recovery, probably a lot of other factors involved in there, right? So hopefully someone taking this will take this lesson, right? And just say, hey, maybe if I am doing something and it is heavy and I'm working hard and I am feeling some pain, well, maybe it's just some modifications that need to happen, or maybe we just need a little bit more recovery in between workouts, or maybe just need to make some mild changes and not have to say, I need to go light or I need to change things completely to really continue to stay active.
Right. And you said it before too. I mean, shouldn't this stuff be hard? I mean, there's pain associated with it. Yeah, it's uncomfortable to lift things. It's uncomfortable to make your muscles burn. It's uncomfortable to get yourself out of breath. But that's the point. So if we're training for comfort, that's sort of the exact opposite intention of why we'd even be doing it in the first place. So that's where, we've said it before. Don't worry too much about the aches and pains that are tolerable. Don't worry too much about the old injuries you had when you were, 15 or 20 or in college or high school. Focus on what you're doing right now. Make that workout as hard as you can make it while still keeping yourself in the parameters that make you feel comfortable. Meaning don't lift 105 or 275 or 276 if you know that you're not comfortable doing that. And if you can lift 225, cool. We can lift 225. We can cluster it. We can add some speed to it. Maybe as it gets a little bit easier, you can add a pause as it gets easier. I mean, there's still so much you can do with a barbell or 225 or any sort of weight to keep it making it fresh or interesting. So I think that's really the thing. This stuff is hard. It should be hard. There's going to be aches and pains associated with it. But if I stopped with every ache and pain I had, I would never go to the gym. I would never make it through a workout because, my back hurts when I deadlift too. My elbow hurts after I do pull-ups, but it doesn't get any worse. And then over time, it's like, oh, I didn't actually feel my back after that deadlift. Oh, I didn't feel it, my elbow after that chin up. Oh, actually, maybe it's adapting a little bit more. So keep those consistent inputs going. Lift heavy if you can. Work progressively, work smartly, work with someone. And I think that's the other, maybe last point I'll make is all of this stuff we're saying is safe. We've studied it. We talk about it. We prescribe it, but just don't do it on your own. It's just too much. I don't do my taxes on my own. I don't try to, buy, just because I went to the dentist last week, I don't try to buy dentist scaling tools and clean my teeth every 6 months, right? There's people out there that can help you use them, right? Like yourself, Joe.
I know, but I just did my teeth cleaning yesterday, so.
Did you do it yourself?
No, I don't. But yeah, I think, you make a good point. I guess the last point, and then I didn't want to interject, but it's called workout. Go work. Go do work. Go get a sweat. Go do things. It doesn't matter what the tools are, right? You don't have to fit yourself into a box. If you don't like barbell stuff, don't do barbell stuff. Do dumbbell stuff. If you love kettlebell work, do kettlebell work. If you love Pilates, go do Pilates, but always make sure that when you're doing it, at the end of it, right, you can say you put the work in. And then if you do have goals, right? I mean, those are the things I try to drive very, very hard on with people, right? Have your goals. And if you're not moving towards your goals, you need to make the changes. If you're moving to the goals, you're probably on the right track, right? But if you don't have those things in place, then you'll never really know if what you're doing is going to have any sort of impact on your meat wagon.
Yeah. Meat wagon. I haven't heard that one in a while. That's a good,
Bring it
that's
back.
probably a good, yeah. Go work your meat wagon. There's the theme of the
to this
episode.
podcast episode.
Anything else, my friend?
That's it, man. You can take us home.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us again. Please come back next week. Joe, I love you. Listeners, we love you. And we will, be back for the Beyond Pain podcast. I got to clean that ending up a little bit, I think.